All right, and welcome to the Pocket Coach Academy Lincoln Douglas Brief Novice Affirmative Case video. That's a lot to say. Okay, so you should be following along with me in your Pocket Coach Academy September-October Novice LD, or in your LD brief, and we're going to go to the Novice AF that we've titled simply Economy, right? So the resolution is the United States ought to require that workers receive a living wage, right? We have a minimum wage that exists inside the United States now, but we want to implement a living wage. So it's important that we define what a living wage is, because that's not exactly something that is agreed upon across spheres or something that we use on a day-to-day basis. So a living wage is a measure of basic needs that draws on geographically specific data to a family's likely minimum cost for basic necessities such as food, childcare, health, insurance, housing, transportation, clothing, and care items. So it determines the minimum employment earnings necessary to just meet basic needs. So a living wage is set to maintain financial self-sufficiency, taking into account income and payroll taxes. So basically, the goal, a living wage is more of a goal than a hard, bright line of creating a wage or a system that reacts and takes into account inflation, cost of goods, and really just the cost of living that exists today. So living wage is something that might be less of a hard line dollar amount and more so of a policy standpoint that can be adjusted and maintained. And you can understand some of the complications that might come with that, but also some of the benefits. So for this AF, the value is prosperity, right? The idea that this means that we should always move to uphold the opportunity and freedom to thrive in society. When you get into this card, you really want to talk about, and this is not made to just get taken to around tomorrow and read. You'll want to highlight and find where it says that we should always move to uphold opportunity. So prosperity is more than wealth, that people have the opportunity and freedom to thrive, right? So we understand the framing of that. Remember, the value is the idea that in the context of resolution, what should we be striving to achieve first or the most and uphold at the highest level. So people live in peace, free from violence, oppression, and crime. Property rights are protected, so investment can cash flow. It gets deeper into, in a prosperous society, everyone is able to build a free life free from poverty. So I think that's a line that you can really latch on to. So the criterion or the process that we can achieve prosperity is through economic growth. It's an increase in the quantity and quality of economic goods and services that a society produces. So we can, if we achieve economic growth, then we can improve or in prosperity and thus uphold that value of prosperity. So how can we define what economic growth is? A definition can be found in many publications. Quote, economic growth is an increase in the amount of goods, services produced per head of the population over a period of time. Okay, so if we increase economic growth, we can achieve prosperity. So we say in contingent one is inequality, that poverty is pervasive, not persuasive, pervasive, that it weasels its way in and has not improved. Only major material changes can affect it, aka poverty. So you can get deeper in the card and talk about percentages. You'll definitely want to go through and read this. We're not going to take the time to just read the entire affirmative because you can do that on your own. But you can find in the card where it talks about poverty is A, being persuasive, see, I said it, pervasive, and it requires major changes to affect it. So a living wage reduces poverty, which leads to sustainable growth. So you can see poverty is bad now, needs big changes to solve it. A living wage can solve those issues and lead to sustainable growth. You see where we're going. Economic growth causes prosperity. A living wage produces economic growth. So therefore, a living wage increases economic growth, which achieves prosperity. So growth solves inequality. The studies should prove that the sole factor of lifting people out of extreme poverty was economic growth. So now not only are we saying that a living wage can reduce poverty, but reducing poverty is the crucial factor to increase economic growth, and that economic growth was improved by lifting people out of poverty. So it really just kind of re-edifies that link between poverty or reducing poverty and increasing economic growth. And now here's an impact, right? That poverty is the deadliest form of structural violence. So in there, it talks about it's equivalent of an ongoing, unending, in fact, accelerating thermonuclear war. Okay, so there's your ability to weigh it and explain why reducing poverty is of the highest importance and why prosperity, right? You can use that to kind of frame prosperity as that if we focus on prosperity, then we are alleviating poverty, which prevents ongoing and ending structural violence that is the equivalent to genocide. Right? Contention 2 in the AF is stability. So we say that slow and unsustainable growth hurts tech leadership. So we're still operating based on that criterion of economic growth. And so if growth is bad, unsustainable or slow growth can hurt tech leadership. That China is gaining and is poised to catch up to the US soon in the area of tech leadership. So we're saying that China is gaining in tech leadership, that slow economic growth hurts us in tech leadership. China is growing and gaining ground on us in the tech sphere. And then we say that a technologically advanced US is an impact filter. That's a fancy way of saying that it can prevent the impacts. It deters conflicts from escalating before they even start. So we're saying that if US is advanced technologically, then it can deter conflicts. Okay. The only thing that keeps peace is military deterrence. We live in a violent world. Military readiness can keep the peace. In order to adversary not miscalculate, factors must hold consequences must be clear. And so you can get in there and understand where and why that a advanced and strong US military is good to prevent conflict. And if we go to conflict, otherwise there'll be extinction. And so you can go into the nuclear winter and, really leverage out. And I know that might sound like a policy debate case, but we're basically just giving us more impact and more weight to our value. And so the idea that we should achieve and focus on prosperity is supported and given more weight by the concept that if we don't focus on economic growth and achieve prosperity, then we risk extinction through poor tech leadership, and we risk inducing structural violence through our first contention. So that's a good basic understanding. This affirmative case is not made for you to just take it around and read. It's not cut, it's not timed. It is specifically made for you to go in and highlight and make your own. It's ready to go. It's got everything you need. You just need to sand it down and make it a finished product. So that way you familiarize yourself with it and can answer questions. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to email me, Cody, at pocketcoachacademy.com, or you can email the brief maker, whose initials are right there. His name is Zach Huffman, and his email is zach@pocketcoachacademy.com. Have a great one.